Good evening, everybody. I'd like to welcome you to the Wolfeboro Board of Selectmen meeting for Monday, October 23rd at 2023. Mr. Pino, do we have a need for any non-public this evening?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. We do not.
All right, thank you. Next on our agenda is going to be a presentation of the 2022 audit report by Mr. Tim Green.
Good evening. I'm Tim Green with Robertson Green. I'm here to present the audit report for the year ended December 31st, 2022. It was just recently issued in about a week ago, to be honest. So I'm going to run through it like I always do, and if I know you guys have lots of stuff to deal with tonight, so I don't want to try not to go as long as I might in the past. But any questions you have, you can feel free to interrupt or just wait to the end. It's really up to you. So first things first, as always, you hire our firm to provide an opinion on your financial statements, and that is the first letter that you get in this big report. And I'm pleased to announce again that the town had a clean opinion for all its opinion units. You actually reported on multiple opinion units, of course. You have governmental activities, you have business type activities as a whole, you have major funds, and then you have an aggregate remaining fund information. So there's a lot of individual opinions, but like I said, clean across the board, so that's a good thing, of course. Some of the wording of the report has changed slightly over the past couple of years. It's just standards have clarified it. It's really boilerplate, and it's something we just take and modify for the town, but it's very standard and canned, to be honest. So just trying to make it clear to the reader that management has a responsibility, we have a responsibility, and so forth. So if there's ever any clarification needed within this report, please just let me know, and I can detail it further. This year also was it was not a full single audit because the town expended over $750,000 of federal money. However, the only reason you were over $750,000 was because of ARPA funds, and when they implemented the ARPA program, the federal government did make an allowance for how many more communities were going to get lots more money than they ever had before. And therefore, to streamline the process of a federal audit when you're really only going over that threshold because of that money. And so that's what the town of Wolfeboro faced this year. So it does allow us to do a much smoother audit and a much quicker audit, to be honest, although based on the date we got this report out, not as quick as we'd like. The next section is your management discussion analysis. This is done by the finance office. I import some of the figures from the financial statements themselves to make sure everything is cohesive. But beyond that, I don't put any of the management statements in here or whatever. This is all from your business office. It is a good document to look at, as it does provide the only comparison between the last year and the current year that you will get. Your basic financial statements themselves that I provide an opinion on are not allowed to do a comparison statement. So, but within your management discussion analysis, that is a good spot to kind of see how the town is doing from the year before to the current year. So skipping ahead right to the basic financial statements, Exhibit 1. This is your statement of net position. This is on the full accrual basis. This is a government-wide statement, which means you have governmental activities, and that's all their funds and activities rolled into one, and then you have business-type activities, which is all your utility funds rolled into another column. So you can see on page 14, which is the second page of Exhibit 1, I go right to the bottom line. Your total net position for your governmental activities was almost $37 million. And then the total net position for your business type activities was just over $34 million. Of your total net position, you can see about fifth row from the bottom, this net investment in capital assets. That is your primary balance, and that represents your physical assets, less depreciation, and less any related long-term liabilities, such as debt or leases. So you can see, obviously, you have a deficit of unrestricted in your governmental activities because you have, as all towns do, you report pension liability and OPEB liability, which do not really have a corresponding asset tied to them. Most full accrual items have an asset related to a liability, but in those instances, there's not. And so that tends to put you in a deficit, and that's, to be honest, kind of typical that you would see in a town that is heavy in infrastructure and physical assets and so on. So You have the same balance in business type activities. Again, net investment in capital assets, just over $26 million. But there is a positive unrestricted fund net position of just over $8 million. Exhibit 2, it's a statement of activities. So this is your expenses and your revenues. You can see the relation to your functions and your governmental activities with program revenues that are derived specifically from those functions. Your largest program revenue, of course, is charges for services, which does include motor vehicle permits and other fees like that. And then you get some operating grants and contributions. You can see a negative figure in there under general government. That's relates to a change in fair value, which was a loss during really the first half of 22. So it still shows as a revenue, but it's a negative revenue. And then you have capital grants and contributions. That tends to be federal grants or state grants as well. And then you have a general revenue section at the bottom. You can see property taxes, obviously, about $12.7 million. That's not tied to any specific function. It goes to support the town as a whole. And your other large revenue source is miscellaneous revenues. So you can see that the change in net position for your governmental activities was an increase of about $2 million, just under $2 million for the governmental activities, and an increase of almost 1.7 for your business type activities. And you have further exhibits that break down your business type activities by utility program. Exhibit 3, it's your balance sheet for your governmental funds. The only major fund the town reports is the general fund, and then again, there's an aggregate column for all your non-major funds. In the back, there's a combining schedule where you can see the detail of that. For the general fund, the total assets at the end of 2022 was about just over $15 million. Your total liabilities was $9.7 million. You had deferred revenue of just over $1 million. That's primarily property taxes that haven't been received within 60 days of year end and therefore need to be deferred in accordance with accounting rules because this statement's on a modified accrual basis, which means more current resources. So if you're not receiving a property tax payment for 6 months, it's not really a current cash inflow. And then your remaining balance is your fund balances. You have a total fund balance of just over $4.6 million. Of that, you have non-spendable portion, which is $66,000. That's the balance equal to your inventory, prepaid items, and tax-deeded property that's held for resale. None of those are physical assets that you can use to expend in the next year, because as you use inventory, that's immediately expense. As you roll over to the next year, your prepaid items become expenses. And again, tax-deeded property is a physical piece of land that you have to sell to have cash. You have restricted fund balance. In the general fund, for reporting purposes, your general fund does include your library and your expendable trust funds. Those are not part of your unassigned fund balance, so your library is restricted for library purposes in accordance with the state law, and your expendable trust funds are committed, part of that $3.9 million balance, because they are committed for the purpose of the expendable trust fund. They are only considered committed and not restricted because the town meeting can change the purpose of that trust fund in the future. So based on that allowance in the law, it's just a committed fund balance. You have a smaller amount for assigned fund balance that represents encumbrances. And within your committed as well, there are any special warrant articles or non-lapsing appropriations like that are actually considered committed because that's a separate town meeting vote versus just a PO or a department head encumbrance. And then your remaining figure you can see is your unassigned fund balance, which is a deficit of about $300,000. I believe it's discussed a little bit in the management discussion and analysis, and we'll see it later too, but the reason for the deficit, which was a big drop from last year, which was about a positive $3.8 million fund balance, that was primarily because of funding of the Pop Whalen Arena was partially through donations. Now, none of the money came in until 2023, so there is no method of recording that in 2022. So what I expect to see next year would be a big actual revenue versus no estimated revenue to replenish that fund balance. But there wasn't really, especially because it was my understanding it didn't come in until July roughly. So there is no method to put that on 2022, even though you spent the money that you were anticipating to receive. So it is, unfortunately, crossing years does tend to give you those big swings for 2022 to 2023. Exhibit 4, and then further on Exhibit 6, these are crosswalks, if you will, between full accrual accounting and modified accrual accounting. So how you get from your general fund balances to the first exhibit, your governmental activities balances, you can see over $55 million in capital assets net of depreciation, about almost $26 million in debt. So those are the big balances that show you the difference from, a total net position of $35 million to a fund balance of $4.6 million. So Exhibit 5 is a statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance. You can see total revenues for the general fund, just over 18 million. Total expenditures, just over almost 24.5. So you had deficiency of revenues under expenditures of just over 6 million. But then you had other financing sources and uses. You had transfers in and transfers out. And then you had proceeds from long-term debt, which is about 3.5 million was borrowed during the year, including premium. Premium on bond is amortized the same as your actual liability, and it's just a reduction of your interest expense each year. So you can see the net change in fund balance for the general fund was a decrease of about $3 million from total fund balance at the beginning of 7.5 to total fund balance at the end of 4.6 million. The other governmental funds, as you can see, they also had a decrease of about 200,000. And again, there's combining schedules in the back that give you a breakdown by fund, where what contributes to that decrease. Exhibit 7 is a budgetary schedule for the general fund. You have 4 columns. You have an original budget and a final budget. The only difference is when you have unanticipated revenue, such as extra highway block money was received, extra bridge aid was received, ARPA funds were received. So as those are expended, your budget on paper will be increased by those amounts, so that you're showing a revenue increase and an appropriation increase, because there is never any effect on fund balance when you receive unanticipated revenues, because you're either recording a revenue when you use it or deferring it until it is used. So you can see the bottom line, net change in fund balance for your budget was a decrease in $1 million, which is essentially what was which was appropriated at town meeting, through the warrant articles. So on paper, you're expected to lose $1 million. Again, as we discussed the reason why, you can see your actual net change in fund balance was a decrease of about 3.7 million. The far right column you can see is your positive and negative variance totals, and you can see, of course, the total revenue was under estimated revenues by 2.5 million, whereas your total expenditures, you were under budget by about 500,000. Other financing sources were under by about 700,000. That represents the difference between what was approved to borrow and what was actually needed to borrow. Exhibits 8, 9, and 10 are exhibits for your proprietary funds. So here's your utilities, water, electric, sewer, and the Pop Whale and Ice Arena. Statement of net position. You can see the bottom line, total net position for each fund. Again, just like governmental activities, you have a portion of your net position is tied up into your capital assets, net of your depreciation and long-term liabilities, and then you have an unrestricted portion. So you can see the water department had just under $1 million unrestricted net position at the end of the year. Electric department was about 6.4 million. Sewer was roughly around $1 million as well. And then the Pop Whale and Ice Arena had a deficit of unrestricted net position, about 100,000. You can see on Exhibit 9 is the net change in net position. You can see operating revenues for each department, operating expenses, and then a breakdown of non-operating revenues or expenses. And you can see that water, electric, and sewer had an increase in net position, and then Pop Whale had a minor decrease in net position, about 47,000. Exhibit 10 is a statement of cash flows for each fund, each business type activity, Exhibit 11 and 12 are fiduciary funds. These are funds held by the trustees of trust funds, either for the school or for private purposes, such as scholarships. You can see total private purpose trust funds, just over 400,000, and money held for the school districts is 1.7 million. And you can see Exhibit 12 is the statement of changes in those net positions. I don't run through the notes at all, but if there's questions, obviously I can answer them. So the notes are designed to provide detail of the accounting principles and policies the town has, as well as more detailed information on significant balances within the financial statements themselves. Your required supplementary information is shown, it represents your statements of the net pension liability and the OPEB liability. These are required to be 10-year comparison schedules. You're almost at 10 years for the net pension liability now at this point. OPEB's still got a few more years to go. So every year you'll see one more year until you get to 10, and then it'll just be a rolling 10-year schedule. And the last group of exhibits are supplementary, and they are your combining schedules for the non-major governmental funds. Page 58, Exhibit 17, you can see your permanent fund is your largest non-major fund, which has about 1.1 million in assets. The capital projects fund is a separate fund to break out any projects that are approved on an annual basis that are funded through debt or significant grants, and that are going to require multiple years worth of tracking. So those, I tend to assist the town in moving those to a separate fund for record-keeping purposes. They probably show up in the general fund on most of the stuff you look at, but they are segregated for reporting purposes to make it cleaner. Exhibit 19, 20, and 21 are general fund detailed schedules. Further detail as far as estimated revenues to actuals, you can see by a specific line item. And again, on page 60, Exhibit 19, if you were to look under miscellaneous, you can see estimated revenues of $2.95 million and actual revenues of 62,000. And again, next year you'll see the flip in those columns, I'm sure, with the actual results being a lot higher. Exhibit 20 is schedule of appropriations, encumbrances, and expenditures. You have your carry forwards from 2021 in the first column, plus your appropriations, minus the expenditures in the third column, and then minus any encumbrances to 2023, leaving you with your budgetary variance on that final column. And finally, Exhibit 21 is the schedule of changes in fund balance, in unassigned fund balance specifically. Again, started the year at $4.2 million. Town meeting appropriated $1 million from fund balance. Revenue shortfall, $3.2 million. Unexpended balance of appropriations of almost $500,000, leaving the town with a budget shortfall of $2.8 million. Changes in fund balance classifications, there's a decrease in non-spendable, which results in an increase in unassigned. As well, there's an increase in restricted fund balance in the general fund, which resulted in a decrease in unassigned. So you can see how you get to your ending unassigned fund balance of about $3 million on the budgetary basis. The difference between that and the deficit figure pointed out on Exhibit 3 is deferred tax revenue, which on the tax rate, for tax rate purposes, which essentially is your budgetary basis, you don't defer that money because, as you know, you have the ability to ultimately collect property taxes if you choose to deed and then sell. So the likelihood that you never recognize revenue is minimal on property taxes specifically, based on state laws and what you're allowed to do as a board. Beyond that, we did have 2 letters this year, again, because of this alternative single audit, if you will. It's called an alternative compliance examination. But so I gave you a normal letter to management that I would give you on any non-single audit year. This one's kind of boilerplate because I didn't have any specific recommendations to make to the town. It went smoothly from our perspective again this year. And then the last letter is required for that alternative compliance examination. What we did is we followed it's called the OMB Compliance Supplement. It's Office of Management and Budgeting from the federal government. And they put out a big binder every year that says, each one of these programs from the federal government, grant programs, has all these requirements that a town or anyone who gets this money is supposed to follow. So, and it's broken down into many categories. Now, our alternative examination allowed us to just look at the 2 A and B. They literally go by letters, A, B, C, and so on. So the A and B, which is basically primarily what's allowed and what's not allowed. That's what they're focusing on. So they wanted to make sure that within this alternative compliance examination, we're still looking at, are those costs that you're charging to those federal grants appropriate under the federal grant. So this letter is required for that, and this just basically to summarize says we didn't see any issues with any of those federal expenditures. Are there any questions? That's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot even for me.
Any questions, board members, right now? Thank you for coming in and presenting this to us, Tim.
My pleasure. I appreciate all the support you guys have given us over the years, so
Thank you, Tim.
anytime.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Okay. We're going to get into our budget review process here. I believe our first one is economic development.
It's in the planning and zoning tab on page 24.
So you have a fairly substantial increase in this budget, 61.79%. Most of that is equated to one line, which I believe Selectman Deshays, and there are some members of the EDC here this evening who may be able to speak on that increase for the budget. With that said, Mr. Chairman, it's yours.
Okay. We'll start off with the 100 series. 200 series. 300 series.
On 300, I'm willing to remove 2,500 for last night fireworks. We raised 2,500 and the town has always matched with 2,500. I am willing for our committee to try to raise a full 5,000 because of the increase in this budget this year. I'll make a motion to remove 2,500 for last night fireworks.
Second.
Motion a second to remove $2,500 from line item 381, right?
Correct.
Right. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Anything else on the 300 series? 500 series. Assume we want to get an explanation on the advertising.
Yeah, we're going to, I'm going to make a motion to cut the advertising budget for $10,000 for the Lake Winnipesaukee Day event. We've raised $10,000 for the Mount Washington 150th anniversary, and then we raised $10,000 last year for the Lake Winnipesaukee Day event, so we're going to have to go for private donations again this year.
Is that a motion?
That's a motion.
I'll second it.
So the motion was to
Reduce it by $10,000.
decrease line item 562 by $10,000, bringing it down to $6,099, correct?
Correct.
A motion and a second on that. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Anything else under the 500 series? Did you have something you want to say to that? It's all. I'm good. It's all taken care of, right? 600 series? 800 series? So we took 12,500 off that budget. Okay.
So your next budget is the Libby Museum. That would be under Parks and Recreation, the first tab.
You are all set.
So, right now, the Libby Museum contains a 1.52% or $777 increase over 2023.
All right, thank you. We'll start off with the 100 series.
Yeah, I have a question on 113. I'm assuming we're done with salaries for the year for the head of the Libby, and we haven't used it all. Am I correct through September, or is there money that's going to come out in October?
I believe there's still funds to come out in October. And I also believe that she had some difficulty with being able to secure staffing this year. That's why that number is not fully expended. Oh, that's just.
113 is only her So if you
Yep.
are correct. She is continuing to work, I think, through beginning of November or end of October.
So we'll finish using that up,
Yeah.
okay? And then he answered the one about the part-time staff, and you cut it, you took a bit out of it. Right. Oh, no, you added to it.
Yeah,
Yeah, so this just reflects the 3.5% wage adjustment.
I'd like to revisit that. I'd like to see if we're still hunting for money, we may want to cut that to what she used this year.
Line 117.
117, yep, I'd like to revisit that one,
Got it, thank you.
see where we are.
Anything else under the 100 series? 200 series? 300 series? I'm assuming the, under 341, yeah, that's pretty much for internet services, Jim? The increase?
Yes, it is a new service down there. She was not very well connected.
Yep.
So it is a new service.
Anything else on 300 series? 400 series?
Yeah, on water, we spent $419 this year. Do we have a leak there?
That I do not.
That's almost doubled. We had nothing in 2000, we must not have opened 2022. We spent 205 in 2021. We budgeted 200 and we spent 419. So
I will take it as an
we'll
action
see
item.
whether it's an oddity or whether we are not enough on that line.
So that'd be a revisit or just an answer from
I think she
KC?
just can, it's just a check.
I will look into it
You know,
Okay.
and revisit it if we need to. I'll let you know.
yeah.
Okay. Anything else under 400? 500 series?
Yeah, advertising, 562. She spent 1,497. They spent 2,000 the year before and 1,400 the year before that. So I'd like to make a motion to take 1,000 off that line to make it $2,695, and that's line 562.
Do we have a second? Motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. 600 series? 800 series?
810, I think we can cut that by 250. It looks like the 5-year average on that is under 200. So I make a motion to cut travel and meetings to 250.
I'll second.
Motion and a second to cut line item 810 down to $250. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Okay, that wraps up the Libby Museum.
Okay, so our next budget is the library.
It's under its own section in about the middle of the book.
Thank you.
So the library budget for 2024 contains a 3.9% or $23,075 increase over 2023. Allison, our new librarian, is here to go through the budget with you and answer any questions that you may have.
All right. Start off with the 100 series. $200 series. 300 series. Um, 400 series.
I have a question on 400. Are you going to use up the rest of your budget for computer maintenance this year?
We have still some outstanding invoices.
Okay.
We have done a lot of negotiations with computer maintenance. Our hope is that, no, we don't, but we're not quite sure. We're still paying some of our, I'm sorry, you can't hear me? Is that better?
Yes.
Okay. We are still in negotiations with some of our computer maintenance contracts. Right now, we look like we're in good shape. However, we're not quite sure how that's going to fill out towards the end of the year. Most of them come at the end of the year,
Okay.
but we're still in negotiations with some of them.
Anything else under 400 series? 500 series?
I would say I do on the 400
Okay.
series, leases and rentals, a copier. To date, you've spent $379.92. That's through September, and you're asking for $1,812. Is this another one where you got some bills coming in?
This is actually through the town, and I don't,
Casey, you?
We do pay for her copier.
I have a zero increase.
Yeah, I'm looking at what you've spent to date, is what's triggering my question, because you've only spent $379.92. And Casey thinks she allocates that?
I'm going to look into that.
Okay, so that's a revisit?
That definitely is a
Okay.
revisit.
Okay. Anything else under 400? 500 series? $600 series?
Line 670, books and periodicals. Can you explain, looks like we budgeted 45,000 for '23, and you're asking for 59,529.
Yes, there's some increases with publications. We actually have to really develop our large print collection also. The seniors have come in and really have requested a lot of large print. We're still maintaining our historical and genealogy software packages. Again, those have gone up increases. We did not budget enough for DVD and CDs last year, and we're seeing a huge increase in that and the requests for CDs and DVDs. Our downloadable services, which in Wolfeboro are heavily used, which is Hoopla and Libby, which is the state library, New Hampshire downloadable section. They've increased over 1,000 for their base expenditures, and then we pay per checkout. So our downloadables are very high, and it is becoming the future of the Wolfeboro Public Library, downloadables at this point.
So every download is an increase in cost?
The base to have a downloadable platform has increased. The actual checkout of 35 cents per book, it has not increased.
Okay.
So it's the platform that it sits on.
Thank you for the explanation.
My only concern on this one is if the Budget Committee asks you where you can cut, and that's 14,000, it may be something you might want to think about, because it could come.
Okay,
Okay?
yes?
Anything else under 600 series? 700 series? 800 series?
830 programs.
Yes. It has been our goal for this year to expand our programming with the special needs community. Presently, working with the Children's Center, we're going to start with children's programming, adding American Sign Language to our programs in order for nonverbal and hard of hearing children to participate. That is we need to train one of our staff members in order to be able to program, or put together a program with the Children's Center, but that's been a strategic goal of ours for this year.
Thank you for the explanation. You're making it very hard for me to cut anything.
820, just wondering what professional development you're looking at doing for this year. The professional development has been $10 to $50, and now we have a $1,900 budget. So I'm just wondering what professional
And
development.
that was for particular programming in regards to the special needs community. Also, the staff has really not participated in professional development in a couple of years. So we're trying to have at least our full-time members participate in at least one professional development program a year.
Anything else under 800? Okay.
I would just note that I anticipate seeing 2 warrant articles, which you have drafts of in your packet. One for reauthorization for a donation for the landscaping. Allison has been working with the trustees to come up with an agreement to put the landscaping on hold with the public safety building project underway, which makes good sense. And then the second one is to be able to accept donations for a solar array to be placed on the building and all associated equipment. So those are in your packet, and I'm sure we'll get into those in the next couple of weeks, but just be aware, those are the only 2 that I'm aware of in the
Yes.
library at this point.
Okay, thank you. All right.
No other questions for Allison?
Nope, I think we're all set.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Allison.
That was easy. Thank you.
Next up is the electric department.
Here we go.
We have Barry here with us this evening to go over the MED budget. The first page of the MED tab is Personnel Administration, which boils down to healthcare, life, disability insurance, dental insurance, and workers' comp. At this point, there's a slight reduction in that budget of 0.86%.
Okay, that whole budget's in the 200 series, so any questions from the board on this for Barry or Mr. Pinio?
And then our next is technology services. All of the enterprise funds receive a technology services budget, and this has remained stable for a number of years.
Barry, you're 425, you've spent nothing this year, your computers are all functioning outstanding.
Yeah, we just had one replaced this week, actually, so.
Yep.
I don't
So
think that's-
we put maintenance in there in case something breaks that we need to fix, but we've overspent 725, so we just have those 2 line items in there. But we've replaced, I think, 2 or 3 this year in electric.
$700 series on that? Okay,
So we carry computer maintenance every year, and sometimes we use it, sometimes we don't.
That's correct. And if something, catastrophic breaks, then we don't replace any of the computers in his group. So we manage those 2 lines collectively.
So the electric administration budget, you'll see a 1.31% reduction, or $14,208.
okay, 100 series. $200 series. 300 series.
Consultants.
Yep.
Yeah, we had, if you recall, we did an assessment this year for the valuation of the department, which is still ongoing, so we increased it for 2023. That's now going to go back in 2024, so there's $30,000 less.
So you still have bills outstanding on the work that's,
Oh, yeah.
okay,
yeah,
because
yeah.
what we're seeing is 44,000, that's what's triggering the
Oh, you're still
question.
talking about what's in there currently? Yeah.
Yes, and so that's
Yeah,
what's,
we're,
What you paid, yeah, we're actively still giving documents to
Yeah,
the
we're-
consultant, so he hasn't billed us.
okay,
No,
good.
we haven't seen probably near half of what that's going to be.
But this coming year, it's in for 70. I know it's been reduced, or no, it hasn't been reduced, but
Yeah.
it's reduced from 100 from last year.
Yeah.
Do you anticipate using all that 70?
Yeah, wouldn't ask for it, Brian, if I didn't, yeah. I mean, I play it straightforward.
Okay. We're not attacking you, it's just,
No, I like messing with you.
we're trying to
No,
get every nickel and dime off from
no,
every department.
I mean, yeah, just with a lot of things going on, we tend to reach out and use our engineer for many things.
Yep.
And it may not necessarily be all from my department, but they get paid for by my department. For instance, our energy committee, a lot of times, we have questions when we're doing these solar installs and these things that it's really,
Okay,
we pick up the tab for those, so.
all right.
Anything else under 300 series? 400 series?
Yeah, 410. You've only used 4,400 in your electric use. And there was 11 last year, you moved it down to 7. Did you put solar on that?
We did,
Is that what the
Linda.
difference
So we're
is?
sort of like learning on the fly. If
Okay.
you notice, the last 2 years, we've sort of reduced our electric usage amount. We're still carrying a credit right now, which is nice. We've got like a $1,700 credit on our solar down there. But I'd like to get a couple years under our belt with a full cold winter and whatnot. And I will adjust accordingly, but yeah, I felt this number was probably a good one to carry this year. We did reduce it,
From last year, yeah, I noticed that.
$3,500.
Yeah, yeah.
We may be able to even do more as there's some trees that need to be cleared down there that'll actually improve our input of solar, so, that's
Exposure
something,
to it, yep.
that's something to think about down the road. But yeah, this has actively been going down, so it's a good thing. I'm not ready to completely disconnect from the grid yet, but
Well, we could cut that some more and help you out.
we're getting there, maybe. No, we're not, actually, but
Anything else under 400 series? 500 series?
Well, I put 400 series of the building maintenance where,
yeah,
what is it specifically that's pushing?
well, it's a number of things that we've had. We've done some numerous work on our boiler. It seems like everything, I don't know, garage doors have been an issue, heating system, plumbing, I don't know, it's just, we're getting to that point where, I don't know if it was just a bad year, but we really didn't have enough money budget to handle all the things we needed to do.
Okay,
I think the boiler probably was the largest,
all righty.
the pellet boiler.
500 series?
Dues and subscriptions, that's a NEPR a membership, that increase, that's why you're seeing that bump to 8,000.
$600 series?
Yeah, 680. You've spent to date $922.68. Is there a bunch of equipment that's
Well,
going to be purchased at the end of the year?
Usually at the end of the year is when we do our purchase of uniforms for the guys, our end of the year and that would be the administrative staff. I'm not saying uniforms, but we'll do the fire-rated sweatshirts or something.
That's what they get for Christmas?
That's their big, don't give it away, Brian, but yeah, that's been working for me. Are we live?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, very much so.
Merry Christmas. No, not necessarily, but, yeah, we haven't spent a lot. It'll be up.
600 series. $700 series. 800 series.
So until such time, this is, well, I guess I jumped you, but programs, payment in lieu of taxes, this is where hopefully our assessment will give us a better live number, real number for payment in lieu of taxes. That's our intent. So once that's complete, I don't know if it'll be completely ready this year to get it in this year's budget or not, but we hadn't really had a real number in 15 years, so, yeah.
We should just raise it.
That's been happening.
Anything else under 800 series?
It might
Yeah.
work to your disadvantage, though. Be careful.
820. You've spent a little under $1,000 and you're asking for 3,000.
Yeah, we kind of kept it the same. I mean,
Are they going? I mean, is it?
well, them is me, and
Are you going?
you know, I like to go to the O&E show and the operation show in the spring. The last couple of years hasn't really been anything I was interested in but I'd like to. If you so felt inclined that you needed to cut something, I mean, I'll get by. But
I'm fine.
yeah,
I
sometimes you get to that point in your career that it's you got kids and everything going on. It's tough to get away for a week or even 3 days, and most of my staff is in that similar boat. So yeah, we don't always get to take
If
advantage.
you don't think you're going to use it, I'd have no problem cutting it.
Well, I hope to.
Oh,
Linda.
okay.
That's the
All
best I
right.
can tell you. I
Okay.
hope to.
All right,
but
then I'll
I-
leave it.
But
Paul wants
you
me
can
to
cut
cut.
it next year.
Paul wants me to cut it right now.
Oh, well, anything for him, yeah. He'll get me on the other end, I'm
You'll
sure.
have your turn.
We'll leave it for somebody else to cut.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, I think that wraps up Barry's budget there.
Well, that's the administration, so we have on to distribution.
So distribution, you'll see a reduction of 10.8% or $244,170.
And I'd like to take full credit for that. Thank you very much. Paul, take note of that, please. Reduction, thank you.
Well, we might as well not go over this budget.
I
Yeah,
think
it's not really-
I
that's
get
not really
credit for it.
fair.
It's
Oh,
debt.
okay, we'll put Casey down.
Fair, we
Casey
say add
gets
some
it.
money. I believe this would be mostly accredited to our, and I've been here a long time, I guess, because 2003, we did our initial $5.28 million bond for these conversion projects that we've been picking away at. So, hey, the first one's off the books. That's the 20th year and that 20-year note. So that's off the books as far as our loan on that.
Okay, 100 series. 200 series. 300 series. 400 series.
Yeah, 400, nope, I'm wrong. Keep going.
430, how are your trucks?
So, yeah, our trucks are good at the moment, Brian. And it's probably the wrong time to bring it up, but we have a capital project to replace a truck. And I'm sorry to say that the price of these vehicles has just gone crazy. So I put in for 275, and I got the word this week that a more realistic number is 4 for a new truck. And I feel like we should probably put in 425 because it won't be till 7 months from now to order this thing. And then I've been told if we ordered it today, I wouldn't have it until 2025. And so If we order it in April, we're probably not going to have it till the end of 2025. That's how far out this, it's just crazy. Nobody will hold pricing or, it's, so we did bump vehicle maintenance because of this extended lead time to keep ME3 hopefully on the road for.
We only
It's a year
raised
and a
it
half.
three
It's
thousand.
not good, but this is the way business is done now. Nobody will hold pricing for more than 30 days, even on a large-scale truck.
How about a lease option?
There were times we looked at lease options in the past. It didn't financially make sense for us because of the length of the
Unbalanced.
number of years we tried to get on. We tried to do 10 years out of these things. And I think we're going to be in the same situation, even getting a lease that's of new.
And you're using your fund balance anyways
Yes.
Yeah, we're not.
for this.
Yes, it's not
we're
a
not
hit on the
cash
tax
short
rate.
That, where a lease would make a lot of sense, but.
Okay.
Right.
So we'll stay on that vehicle maintenance. If we're pushing this truck out through this year, you think 20 is enough? When you spent 27 this year, you were only 17 the year before, and then the year before that, you were 32.
Yeah, I mean,
Or do you think you have enough wiggle room other places that if you had a big maintenance job, you're okay?
I do.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
tough to really, who knows? I mean, we had some large-scale things go wrong, and a truck can be just, here's a $10,000 bill, and that doesn't happen every year, so let's hope that is not the
This-
case.
yeah.
but I-
Okay.
Anything else under 400? 600 series?
Yes, 610, and the reason,
610, so.
I'm
this-
looking at what you've spent to date, and then you've spent about 125,000, and you're asking for 300,000, and you asked for 275. Are there some supplies you're going to stock up at the end of the year, or what's happening there?
So this, and Casey, you may have to help me with this one. And this is similar to equipment, vehicles. Transformers now are like over 12 months to get a transformer. Hell, I heard our friends from Eversource are even telling people, we're sorry, we can't hook up your new house. Because this is a dilemma we're going to be in too. So we have ordered transformers this year, and Casey, maybe we put it into this sort of placeholder account that we won't be paying for them this year, but we know the payment's going to come due at some point. So it's
if-
sort of an interesting,
Do we have a PO? Would that be something at the end of the year that will be encumbered? So that line item will be spent more?
Yes, so it depends if he knows there's a 36-month or that's too long.
some of them are.
18, if he can use next year's money to do a PO, then we wouldn't encumber it. But if he's using this year's money, we would encumber it. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
So if he's ordered it,
Yeah,
then you would have committed yourself to it, so it should be able to be this year.
correct, yes.
Okay, so that number can go up based
it's-
on what was going to be spent, based on what you've ordered.
It certainly will, and,
Okay.
we looked at this today, think the same thing. It looks like, oh, wow, you're way under an operating. It
yeah.
really is not the case once these stuff.
Right.
In fact, we may even look at, depending on our thoughts with Jim, about, trying to at least get partial payment in on some of these things, so we don't create this, keep pushing it down the road. I mean, some of this stuff might not hit till the 2025 budget. So that's going to be difficult to deal with and track, and it's crazy.
So I guess I'm looking for, when it goes to the Budget Committee, whether we should put some kind of an explanation for that, or have it ready to go, saying, okay, this is what we have. We've ordered X number of transformers. This number we're projecting to be about.
I believe we were supposed to meet and talk about prepaids, but you had time off and then was sick.
Yeah,
So we
so-
haven't had that chance. But we will be doing some POs into this account before the next budget book. So a note will not
Yep,
need.
gotcha.
And we
Yep.
just, we'll just got to
Okay,
find a way to make
perfect.
sure eventually
So-
they get hit where they,
How close we are.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, we just, we got a $90,000 recloser on order, so that's not showing up yet
Do we have,
out of what you see.
did we find the transformer find one available for the IGA?
It's the same one I ordered, yeah. I mean, it was ordered back in May, but it doesn't mean the lead time's any sooner, so it's really going to be a dilemma in this country with getting transformers.
So they'll make the adjustment.
Yeah, I was just curious if we
Yeah,
know what.
I'm not,
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
maybe
We should
he'll
be
take a
if we should be stockpiling those things.
Well, our intent is to stockpile them, but we need to order them.
Yeah.
And when you're
Stockpile.
waiting,
Yeah.
we had a shipment that was supposed to come in back in May. What is it? It's now the end of October, and we're still waiting for that May shipment, so there will become a time in this town, and I getting out of order probably here, but that we're going to have to say with new construction and people building new homes, I'm sorry, but what we have, we're going to have to use for our own in-house emergencies, replacements, and you're going to have to wait. Other utilities are doing it.
So let's say, we'll go back to the IGA. Could you use smaller transformers to replace what you need, so it's what has
It's
to-
really a dilemma. That one happens to be ordered, so that's a good thing. We have a date, but there's no promise of that date. But that happens to be sort of a specialty transformer that's large. It's a voltage that's not an off-the-rack
Okay.
transformer, so it might come down. We might have to do some things, reach out to rentals, find some used ones, this.
Okay.
Well,
Just- Okay.
we're working on that. Yeah, it's not, I don't anticipate it going to be a huge thing over there, because we've been working on
Okay.
other options, but I'm full of good news tonight. But, yeah, it's just the way things are. It's really crazy.
Anything else on the 600 series? 700 series? 800 series? 900 series?
We've got, one of our apprentices is graduating out this year. That's why you see our travel and meetings and professional development in this line item going down, because they're completing their training, so we'll be down to one apprentice.
Well, from 740 through 981, it looks good. They've all gone down. It's a good page to look at.
So the next budget is electric generation. There's been some questions. We have a contract in place through the end of 2026, so we're in a good position there. This budget shows a 5.7% increase, or $385,681.
Okay, 100 series. 200 series? 300 series? I'm assuming on the consultants, you'll be using some of that this year, or?
Well, we may be using more than we like, just based on, and I think I've touched base with you folks about our, I think we talked about our oil abatement consultant just sort of leaving us high and dry down there,
Yep.
among other folks, according to the state, so, yeah, we hope to find somebody to do it for the state minimum, but we'll see how that goes.
Does the state that doesn't have people?
They provided me with a list. Obviously, they won't necessarily recommend
Okay,
anybody.
so
but
they
have
did
a
give
list
you-
of contractors that will work for the state allowance.
Okay, that's all right. All
But
right.
can I get them in? And that's, and
That's
will they, do they want to take this on? Still working on that.
Right. 400 series?
Yeah, 400 series. And our contract goes until 2000, you say 26 or?
End of 2026,
Ends
correct. So
2026, okay. I thought he said,
this is electricity, yeah. We, and this was something, we didn't really anticipate this needing to go up, but our friends from ISO New England they opted to keep the Mystic River Generating Station down in Boston up on standby over this past year for whatever reason to help the New England peak. And because of that, all members of ISO New England got hit with a surcharge to keep the Mystic River Station up. And that's what their increase is right there for us, to keep that plant on standby. We don't really have a lot of say, even though we have a contract with our purchase power. The ISO New England's the one that gets it here, and they make those calls, and guess what? You have to pay. So,
May I ask a question? So which one, is it Constellation that is the 5-year contract?
correct.
Is ISO in a contract, multi-year contract? or-
There's not a contract with ISO. ISO is the controlling operator of electricity in New England. So if we're in New England and we're in the power game, we're subject to those fees.
So I'll probably add a note beside Constellation that it's year, what, 3 of 5 or whatever it is.
Yeah, I can do that. We typically put a breakdown of the
Yes.
charges. I think we included a sheet in the budget for,
She does have off-peak and on-peak, but I'll just write the contract
Yeah.
period.
yeah, that'd be good.
So our contract for our buying right now ends in December of '26, the current rates that we'll be enjoying.
Yeah, we won't,
When do you start negotiating that?
so
Or when do you start looking
we
at?
typically go out the year before. Natural gas prices are not that bad right now. They've been, so I may opt to go out a little early and try to lock into something a little further out than the norm, but, I would think next year, in 2024, we'll start kicking the tires.
Yeah, I would think we would definitely have legal and consulting fees
And
for
that's
that
what we
in
did.
25.
Right, and the part of that we'll see in the
Earlier.
the 70 grand I have there in that portion of the consulting, so therefore I wouldn't
'Cause
pull
I-
that out. That's always worth its weight in gold. Mayhew's,
Yeah, we did that early this time.
I went out 2 years
Yep.
earlier than, just because the timing told us to do so, and so it worked to our advantage, so.
Okay.
It may again, I don't know. We've got lucky a couple times. Paul will tell you it's my genius ability, but is he still here? Yeah, and
Definitely your ability.
it's timing. It really is. It's, if you can catch it right and negotiate early, and you've got companies willing to negotiate early, if it's not too volatile of a market,
I just think the average, if you only have a house in Wolfeboro and you only live in Wolfeboro and you've been enjoying these electric rates for the last 3 years, if you have a place in Tuftonboro, it's going to be, if it was a year ago especially, people would be shocked how much people are paying in other towns.
I don't think people in town really, and it's been more than, it's 17 years, Luke, since we've had a rate increase. 17 years at the end of this contract, so.
Yeah.
I don't think people have any idea in Wolfeboro what, compared to the outside world.
That's why I want to start getting people, everything's going up in
Yeah.
price. So the expectation is that there's going to be, there's
It may,
Yeah.
but the one thing we can always guarantee, we're still going to probably have a lower rate than our competitors around us regardless. It may be more than we're paying now, but it will still be less than,
17 years ago, it was closer to them. But you've managed to do a great job keeping your eye on it and keeping us down.
the gap is certainly spread
Like a lot.
over that time frame, but we have not seen a rate increase here. Or we won't, I should preface that by saying, by the end of this contract, it'll be 17 years with the same rate, and I don't think a lot of places can say that. So, kind of proud of that, anyways.
Anything else under 400 series? 600 series.
I just have one question, and it's more to In case, gasoline, do we have a contract with gas? Has it changed? So it's,
Month to month.
Month to month. We're putting it on the revisit list here and probably at the budget committee as we did last year. And the last rate we possibly have is what we'll present and make any changes if necessary.
so this is just reflective of what was there last year now?
Yeah.
is it? Yeah.
Yeah.
But diesel did go down.
Diesel went down, yeah, and we didn't get a quote on pellets either,
Yeah.
but you
But
increased your
pellets
pellet.
did go up, but, yeah, anyways.
So that takes care of Barry's operating budgets. He does have a warrant article, as he mentioned, for a bucket truck replacement. Based on the CIP documents, we penciled that in for $325,000. Anticipate that going up as we get into the December, January timeframe. And do you want to talk about your capital outlay request at all, or
I
where are
have
you
a
at with that?
capital outlay request, and I apologize for not having a real hard number with it. It's a building project. It's our armory building down there where it doesn't really have a,
May I interrupt? But there's nothing in the books for it, so.
I think it's just, there's no number
Right, so I
associated
don't-
with it.
They were looking for it.
Oh, okay.
Right. Saying,
I
come
would
on.
like to put a placeholder in at this time, if that's feasible. I'd like to carry 100,000 in there until I get things buttoned down with Bergeron.
Yes,
In
and you should
regards
before the
to,
next, before we create budget committee books. We could get something to Jim so he can sign off on it.
Okay. And just a heads up, like I said, on the truck, I'll be looking at 425 versus my original. Yeah, so.
Did you order a truck last year or the year before? Did we just do?
2 years ago.
And you have that one now, right?
Yeah.
That came in, okay, good. Good.
Yeah, that one. We got the chassis before it all hit the fan, and now it's 2 years to get a chassis,
Right.
is what they're telling me, so.
Yep.
So we kind of lucked out with that one, but, yeah. All right, do you have any questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Barry.
That wraps up our budgets for tonight, I think.
Yeah, just, did you talk about the handout from
I did not.
the lease?
Last time we met, I believe it was the last time we met, with Parks and Rec, there was a discussion about receiving lease documents to consider a lease for a tractor for the Pop Whalen Arena. That package is in front of you with a couple of different tractor options and a lease option. Very preliminary, but it'll give you an idea of what we're looking at there. And secondly, you got an updated water distribution budget. Understand that when the water budget was reviewed, Rod Dempsey was out, so he didn't have a good opportunity to review the budget. Since that time, he's had an opportunity to review the budget, made some adjustments. Essentially, the bottom line number is the same. He reduced $45,000 out of the budget, but he's also looking for $45,000 for water meter replacement. If you remember last year, Budget Committee requested that the water meters be installed into the budget as a line item as opposed to a capital outlay. So that's what we've done. So you have the opportunity to go through that, and Rod will be here on Thursday night to discuss this. Short of that, is there anything else, Casey?
Public input?
Like we had under other business, we had a topic we'll go into now regarding maybe Linda, there's the bike trails.
Yes, I think, Brian, you want to take this since you were the one who got the first
I
email?
can start. It was brought to my attention from a citizen that, well, we have two issues in Abernathy. One that we already discussed, and that was that the trail builder has cut through 2 downhill trails and through the Glades area, which is a makeshift trail that goes through the woods that the kids have used for many, many years. The Glade Trail now drops off 15, 20 feet into a drainage hole that's full of boulders. And the one trail has a nice, let's call it a goat path through it, which can be filled with snow and maneuvered easily. The other one has a huge drainage swale and then a 12-foot wide flattened area with 2 rock walls on both sides, which is going to have to be covered with a lot of snow, which is a lot of manpower, a lot of water, a lot of energy to get it so that it can be skied on. Then it was brought to my attention, that was 2 weeks ago, this week, that they are building a quite extensive and long wooden bridge that is going over rock walls for a part of a climb trail. Now, I walked the climb trail, the proposed area, with Russ from the water treatment plant and with Chris Dow. I can't remember if there was anybody else with us. I think it was just us 3. And at no time did the proposed trail that they pointed out go over or through any rock walls. I made a statement during the walk that, wow, this is unusual that we have all these breaks in rock walls, but this must have happened years back because it's against state RSA to break through a stone wall on public property. And it's also against the law to break through a stone wall that is a boundary marker. So, people came to me and they're a little concerned about the wooden structure, and I went back to some discussions that we had as a board, and they brought up to us one time making a trail go down the mountain and then putting another trail over the top with a bridge, and as a board, we said absolutely not. We are not having any wooden structures out there that would have to be maintained, and we said no, we want just flat trails and trails for, climbing and going down the mountain. So we have a dilemma and looking to the board to see if we have any ideas.
And when I received the photograph, I think Jim sent it to us, of the bridge, I went back to the contract, or the license agreement that we signed with Single Track on July 16th. And it says in that contract that they are to flag the trail, and that we are to agree that that is where it's to go. So as far as I know, there was no flagging of the trail, nor did the town confirm that that is okay for it to be there. And I also went back to the contract we had with the builders and looked to see if there was any material for wood or anything written in there, in any of the documents we, as the Board of Selectmen, have signed in relationship to wooden structure, and none of our documents list wood or any kind of structure. So I agree with Brian, we did not okay any wooden bridge. The issue with in the hill, I feel, is a little different. It showed their lack of understanding of the impact to the trail, but we gave them permission by the staff person we had there. So to me, that they got permission to put it there, but this bridge they did not. And my feeling is that that bridge should come out. We don't want bridges over the stone walls. We weren't told about it. It's kind of back to the same issue as the trail. So I was hoping that Jim could get the contracts to the board and that we could talk about it on Thursday and maybe take a vote to have them remove the bridge.
Another concern I would have about, the wooden structure bridge, obviously it's going to be elevated. You're going to have bikes riding on it. Has there been any questions I would have, has there been any engineering done into that? The safety, probably reach out to legal if there's any liability on the town if something happened on that. And just what our exposure would be to something like that too. So, yeah, I got some serious concerns about, a wooden structure like that being out there on our trails.
We know that the wooden structures, when they're in the woods, they're not exposed to sunlight. They do get very wet, slippery. They can be. I know that some of the bridges that are in Sewell Woods are actually marked slippery when wet, be careful. So, yeah, and a bike on a wooden trail when it's wet and it's got some slime built up on it, yeah, it could be an issue.
I thought we had nailed it down, the contract. We're in this problem. First of all, we had trails that we never approved, and we compromised, we worked with them. I thought we nailed down a license agreement, and we would mark it, and we'd come and confirm that that's where it was going to go, and then they could build it. And I don't think that's what happened. And so that's why I think the bridge is dangerous, and I think it should come out, and we put it onto the ground, because my understanding, that was supposed to be the slow slope climb for your novice and younger bike riders, opposed to the climb and the downhill run around the ski slopes.
It's one thing if you have to have some kind of wooden structure to get across a seasonal, stream bed or something like that you don't want to, disturb or fill in, obviously. But to just put one in there for climbing for, I don't know how long this structure is, if it's lengthy.
It looks very long. I haven't walked up to see that one yet. I haven't had time. That's on my to-do list this week, to go and find it and to see how substantially long it is. 50 to 100 feet, at least. It's substantially long from looking in the pictures. Did you have a copy of the pictures, Brad?
I saw it, yeah. It looked fairly lengthy.
Yeah. It's hard because of the angle that it's at and whatnot, and it can be deceiving, but it looks substantial. I see it being substantial because I looked at the timbers that were used underneath it to construct it. And those are the same size timbers that are holding up my house. So it's pretty substantial.
Any other comments, questions?
If you go up there, check to see if you can determine what type of materials it is,
Okay.
such as, is it hemlock? Is it pine? Is
Looks
it,
like pressure treated with cedar.
is it pressure treated?
Yeah, I believe
6x6.
it's 6x6 pressure treated, and it actually said in one of the posts that it was a beautiful cedar bridge they were building.
It's 5/4 cedar decking, it looks like.
Okay. Because it would make a difference how mildewy it can get.
Yeah.
As opposed to different types of woods will react differently. Not saying that I'm in favor of it, but, because I agree with Linda and you, Brian, that,
Yeah.
originally it said no wooden structures.
And going back to what Brad said, there's a lot of these types of structures. I wonder who engineered the bridge over at Fernal Station that goes over the river. It washed out in one of our rainstorms and went floating down the river. They went and they gathered it back and then set it back in place. So, I mean, who designed that bridge? And that's a substantial bridge. That's a big bridge. So I don't know. I don't know who's designing these bridges.
So we'll put it on the agenda for Thursday night, and then we can take a vote, and that gives the single track if they want to come and speak to us.
There's also the question, what do we do with all the old trails that we haven't approved yet?
Brian, I did go back to that agreement. They were listed.
Are they listed?
Yeah, I did. I went back and read that license agreement, and we listed them. But there is no work to be done on those trails other than maintenance, and that's the other issue, is to maintain them as is. They could cut branches that were coming in, but I don't know whether we need to be a little clearer. Because I don't want it all of a sudden, if it's 4 feet wide, I don't want to go down, they maintained it to 6.
Yeah.
Because some of them are they're over by the cross-country ski trails. And I think that's the other issue here. You had the downhill skiing, and I don't know what this new trail down is more of a higher twisting trail down to the bottom of the ski slope, where I thought it was just going to be more of a gradual coming down the other side. So it's very different than when we initially walked. It has switchbacks and all that in it. So I just am feeling that we need to be very specific, and we may need to even be more specific about those other trails, too.
And here's a question for Jim. I know we haven't nailed down whether it's 75 or 100 feet, although the state says 100 feet from our spray field is a preferred practice. I'm wondering who is going to check to see what existing trails are in that buffer zone that have to be rerouted or changed or...
So there's a meeting, I believe it's November the 1st,
Correct.
with New Hampshire DES. They're going to come up and try to come to a resolution on the 75 or the 100-foot buffer. From that point, I think we can determine what will fall within the parameter, and then they've taken action to order the signage. We have it as a calendar item, as a reminder, March 15th, that the signage is supposed to be installed by April the 1st, per order of the Board of Selectmen. And I would anticipate that at that point, we would be able to delineate where trails within either that 75 or 100-foot buffer area are located to be able to install signage. And then as well to determine what other areas would need to be flagged or relocated.
I would like in the trailheads where people park to get on their bikes to go up, or if they're coming from across over at Sewell Woods and coming across 109 and over to them, have a sign that just says, "Welcome to our trails. Be wary of trails or trail signage," and something to the effect that just lets people know that there are signs in there that they need to be wary of. Not stay out, this, that, or the other thing. The signs for the spray fields are very good. They explain everything. They tell people that they need to stay away, but maybe a reminder in the trailheads that say, be wary of signs out there, or be watchful for signs out there, follow the regulations, whatever, something. Follow best practices or safe practices when biking, something like that.
So that signed license agreement has been forwarded to you. It's in your inbox.
And it has the maps and everything behind it?
It's the full
Okay,
full
it's the
document.
full document, okay.
That it's
July.
16 pages
Yeah.
long.
Yeah, okay, that's
Lays
it.
out the signed agreement, has the attached exhibits,
Good.
A, B, C,
Yep,
and then shows new trails for approval, and then a checklist for event permits if they were to hold events going on out there. So it's a full document.
so I thought we were going to try to map it. We were going to produce a big map that put all the trails, bikes, cross-country skis, because some of the cross-country ski trails go through spray fields, but that's no problem. You don't reroute those. The ones we'd have to reroute would be your bike trails if they go through them.
Yeah, or any cross-country ski trails that are used as bike trails auxiliary, you know what I mean?
Well, but no, then we have to put something up there in the summer months. You don't want to take away that
Correct.
cross-country ski
Correct.
trail because people decide to bike up there. We'd have to put something at the head of that trail as it entered that area from both sides. But I don't want to wipe out a cross-country ski trail.
Well, our signs, at least, they have the months written on them. They say May 1st to November 1st, so that's self-explanatory to people that they know.
Right.
That,
But the trails that we'd need to move would be the mountain bike trails, not the cross-country ski trails.
yeah.
Or yeah.
Yeah, and so the mapping, I've had a couple conversations with the firm who developed the last set that laid out a pretty good map to be able to come in and do that entire overlay and hopefully be able to do it in an overlay pattern so that, okay, this is going to show bike trails, this is going to show snowshoe trails, this is going to show cross-country ski trails, this is going to show alpine trails, and then be able to color code them, but as well be able to look at it and break some of those overlays out so it doesn't get so confusing. Had a good conversation with that firm, and I also had a conversation with another local firm, but they weren't really equipped to be able to do that type of work.
So if we don't get it done, we will encumber those funds?
Oh, yeah, it won't happen this year. We'll encumber those funds to be done in the spring, which hopefully we have a finalized trail system of mountain bikes that everybody is in agreement on.
Will the cross-country ski association and the single track, are they going to help pay for the construction of this map?
I haven't approached them on that subject.
Does the board think we should? Part of the reason we're creating this map is because we're in this situation. If this didn't happen 2 years ago, we would have never created a map. So,
Well, we have a map of the ski trails.
correct.
The cross-country skis, that just needs to be put on it, all right? And same thing with our downhill, we have our alpine. The only one that we really have to lay on top of is the bike trails.
There's only a couple of them.
I don't think we had talked about asking anybody to pay.
Not to my recollection.
Would the board want to reach out to the single track and ask if they would like to contribute?
I thought they said they would help.
I can have that conversation
Let's see how much it's going to cost first.
with them.
Ultimately, it's going to be benefit the town and public safety to have a detailed map that is our own, that we control. So let's see how much it's going to cost, and we can ask.
And I think that's what we were thinking about, something that we had, so we
Yeah.
could control it, and we'd have some coordinates on it, just for safety, that they wouldn't necessarily put on if they were doing a map.
Anything else under other business?
Make a motion, we adjourn.
I got one, just public input. Dave, what was your motion?
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
Motion to adjourn in second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everybody.